Yeah, welcome everybody. Here we are again. It's me and Claire, and today we want to talk about the German working culture. And I think, everybody has some stereotypes about the German working culture. Actually, that's something we only want to cover a little bit. But what we want to talk about mostly today is really like how is it here after working for a while? What kind of issues are you facing, or maybe where is this German working culture different from other cultures? And that's actually what we want to talk about. And Claire has a lot of experience already in the recent years she made, and we really want to talk about how could you get things done, for example, here. How do you move on with your projects? What do you have to consider? Yeah.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of things have been said about German working culture. For example, there's a lot of processes existing, and they are very hardworking. Germans are hardworking, and people like to be on time. I would say it's all true. From what I experienced, they're all true. And we're not gonna go through this. I would say very high level stuff with our episode today. We just want to talk about things that you cannot really Google to find out, or you cannot easily find out from Google.
Yeah.
For example, how do you move things forward? How do you drive a project forward in a German organization?
Yeah.
And Stefan, I want to hear how is your experience in terms of driving a project forward? Maybe I can kickstart. What I experience is before you reach a decision level, you kind of have to talk to a lot of people. I call it those alignments round. I noticed that you kind of have to align with a lot of people before you actually reach to the top. It's like a bottom-up approach. And sometimes you have a committee that decide that makes decisions. And then you sort of have a voting, you present your case there, and then they will vote, and majority win. But actually, before it comes to that step, you kind of have to talk to a lot of people, especially people who are sitting in that committee, and people who will brief those people who sit in the committee. It's like a lobbying sort of process, and it usually takes many rounds, and have to repeat this case again and again. Yeah, and is that your experience as well?
Yeah. Actually, here in Germany, it's what I have experienced, especially the bigger the companies are, because then you have more this kind of bureaucracy. You have really this kind of experts for different things, and everybody wants to keep his ass saved. So nobody wants to take the responsibility. Nobody wants to take the risk, and everybody wants to have it approved from this kind of expert. And as you say, if you really follow this kind of visual process, it really takes a lot of time, because you need to get the approval from so many different people, and very often one expert here is saying, you have to do it this way, and then the other one is telling you directly the opposite thing. So that might take a lot of time to keep on moving with your project. And the question is, how do you get out of this? I mean, it's typical bureaucracy. How do you get out of that?
Have you used any effective tips in the past that has helped you sort of balance? How do you save time in the process? Because it takes a long time, first of all, and secondly, when people have conflicting opinions, let's say you talk to expert A who has say, okay, I'm supporting it. Expert B say, no, this is a disaster. Maybe we go this way. How do you sort of consolidate everything, and do you listen to them, or do you don't listen to them? If you don't want to listen to them, how do you navigate that? And maybe whether the relationship gets damaged, or will people be pissed at you if you don't take their opinions on board? How do you sort of navigate?
Yeah, to be honest, if you always follow everybody's opinion, and if you follow the direct process, which is officially described, you not get anything done. So it's pretty interesting to see that here in Germany you're still successful if you go the unofficial ways. So what are the unofficial ways? Actually, it's really like people business. It's like having a good relationship to the colleagues which are important for you. Maybe to build up, if possible, some personal relationships. So what I prefer to do is, like having some small talk on the phone, maybe meeting up for coffee, maybe if necessary, maybe going out for lunch with them. It's really like, if you want to get things done, this is still of matter. So find other ways to move on with your project. Maybe talk to some other colleagues who did it successfully. How did they do it? Because if you always follow the official processes, it takes too much time.
Well, let's say you have been told that these two are the stakeholders.
Yeah.
You need to consider their opinions and how they see things, and they happen to have the opposite opinions from each other. And how would you proceed?
It's really the question if you really follow it or if you just ignore it. I mean, there's also a certain risk to ignore them, and but it's definitely an option that you just ignore one opinion and then you just move on. I mean, it's still a risk. It's still a risk that later on somebody is getting pissed because you ignored his opinion. But it's a risky option, definitely. But what is the alternative? I mean, you could try to convince.
Anyway, not doing it.
Yeah.
I think the alternative is just not doing it or let it get stuck forever.
Yeah.
And if that's not an option, I think I would just have to ignore one of the opinions.
Yeah.
And I think just put it in the context. This sort of culture, I've only experienced it for the first time when I'm in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And I also read about it. I think in Japan it's also very common. This way of decision making is like this bottom-up approach.
Yeah.
For example, in China or in the US or other countries, what I've experienced is like you have an idea, you have a approach, you go to the person who's in charge, like your boss or whatever is in the position to make that decision. You go to him and you present your case, and he is agree. When he's fine, he say, okay, let's do it, let's roll it out. And actually people will be fine with that because he is person who, or she, sorry about my gender bias, or she is actually the person who is in charge of that decision, and only this person alone will be enough. You don't need to talk to tons of people on the way. And I think that's the level of, I would say, decision making I really had to get used to. I think a lot of foreigners here, they were super confused, like when they want to do something, why do I have to talk to so many people who are seemingly totally unrelated to this topic? That's something people have to sort of take note of and be aware of it and find a smart way to navigate.
Yeah, I think it's really typical for our culture that we are risk avoiding. So whenever a decision needs to be done, everybody wants to back up himself. So we really like to have, let's also ask him for his opinion. We also need the opinion from this other expert, and only if we have like these 5 to 10 opinions, and they should not really be opposite to each other, then we can really move on. And we do not. I mean, it's maybe you could also call it more democratic.
It
but
is.
I would also call it more bureaucratic. And that really takes time, and that could be really annoying.
Sometimes I've experienced, I mean, you talked to this person, he or she should be in charge, and then he or she was like, oh, have you talked to this and this and this person yet?
Yeah.
And what have they said about it?
Yeah.
Basically, the decision group or the stakeholder group gets bigger.
Yeah.
This is something people have to sort of get used to it. If you're coming from the outside and not really sort of start your career here and sort of moving somewhere else, I think it's something pretty unique about German organizations.
Yeah.